I'd never done any part like this. I'd never done a character like this, and I've always loved horror films, and I just loved Abigail as her character and how she was like basically playing two different people, and like the transition from the innocent girl into like this vampire. I just thought it was amazing, so I was really, really intrigued. Getting to transfer myself into a vampire was like a completely different, mindset, and you have to go in, like, you're not just changing to a different person, changing to a different like species into a vampire. So I really just, when I had those scenes where I'm killing everyone and I'm enjoying it, I just had to really get into it, and especially like all the teeth I get to put in and the contacts as well and all the blood, like it's a completely different person. But I love trying things new, and especially when I heard there was loads of stunts, I was so determined and eager to try and do all the ones that I could do myself. My favourite one, I think, so far was when I got to walk on the railings. I also did a scene last week where I started levitating, which was really, really weird. Like, you don't really realise it until you're literally up there, like, flying. Like, it's really odd, but it's so much fun. Like, it's so fun.
It's deliberately playing on what are the tropes of a vampire movie. The characters even kind of discuss that in their efforts to figure out what's going on and get out of there. They have to collectively draw on their knowledge of vampires in popular culture to try and defeat this thing. To all intents and purposes, he's sort of the team leader. He's been sort of appointed this by this guy Lambert, who's sort of charged him with running this team. Everybody else seems to have a special set of skills. I'm not sure what Frank's is, but he wrangles them all and seems to begin with at least, seems to be the sort of grown-up in the group, has a little bit of seniority, and is sort of able to get them all together. And as an ex-cop, he's sort of vaguely qualified in that direction. Joey just seems to, despite her slightly sort of shady past, she seems to have it all together and is very sort of serious and focused in a way that Frank doesn't seem to be. And yeah, she sort of immediately puts his back up, and they have this sort of animosity right the way through, and he's very reluctant to give up the top spot, I think.
Sammy's a little bit of a mystery. She likes to keep things under wraps. She's a lot cooler than me. She's got a lot of different levels to her, but mostly I think she just wants to observe and listen. She doesn't really want to partake. But she's got some secrets that are revealed to you later in the movie, and the biggest one I can't tell you, but you'll just have to see it. And I've had a lot of fun playing this role because she's got all these tattoos on, like, even a neck tat. Come on. Like, it's so sick. I love her. I've loved, and the hair and the makeup. Love this character. It's just kind of who I want to be, is what I'm trying to say. She's who I want to be, and I'm not. It's okay. Well, I think Matt and Tyler really love blood. And I was not prepared for the amount of blood. And it looks awesome. Like, I hated how it looked. It was so horrible, so scary looking, but awesome, It's why I'm here. My favorite part of making movies sometimes is that I can get really dirty and then, it's not my clothes. I don't care. You can't really do that in real life. So for me, it was like, I get to do some really cool things in this career, and definitely getting all bloodied up is one of them. Well, from the very first table read, we all looked at each other and we're just like, well, we're in good hands. Phenomenal. Sweetest little girl you've ever seen. Consummate professional. Never a complaint. Never anything except a smile. I love her. I just love her. And it's hard not to love her. And she's just the littlest thing you ever see in your whole life. And she's so cute. And every time she has her scary vampire teeth in and she's just smiling at you and laughing, and you're like, you're so horrifying, but I still love you.
The scariest thing is she's like, oh, I wonder what they'll do if I play sweet in this scene, and she just keeps toying with us. She loves the game of it. It's just fun for her. That's what's terrifying. Every single character in this has agreed to come and kidnap someone, and we've done repeated other jobs to be within this network of criminals to do harm onto others in order to benefit themselves. So every single character in this movie is a monster.
When we were first reading Abigail, it was just clear from the start that that was one of the things that was this, like, the feature of what was cool about it, is that you had this really confident, really tense heist movie, and it collides with a monster movie. And I think for us, not only was that kind of a flavor we hadn't seen before, but we'd never really done a heist movie before. And so it was really, I think, creatively exciting for us to kind of do our version of that specific genre and then kind of slip into something that I think we're more familiar and maybe more comfortable with, which is just like the monster gore fest, and keeping both of those things alive, the crime movie, the heist movie, the monster movie at all times. That balance, I think, is what was so, it was one of the biggest challenges, but I think at the end of the day is really the identity of the movie. And that was really clear very early on from the script stage.
The other thing that really attracted us to the script was the characters felt very unique, and it felt like there was a lot of opportunity for us, for Guy and Steven, for the actors to kind of work together to build these very, very specific characters. And I think that's something we always look forward to. And when we're working on anything, is like, what's the big fun kind of genre hook? And then how can we make these characters really cool?
Early on, we had a lot of conversations about, well, how are we going to handle the mythology and the lore behind vampires? And I mean, there is a version of this script that you could set in any time period. You know, for us, there was an opportunity to not only modernize what a vampire is, but also set the movie in a way that the characters themselves within the film are aware of the other vampire movies and the other bits of vampire lore that exist. And I think that was a really fun opportunity for us to kind of take all of the rules, the things that you know, maybe the things that you don't know, have the characters unpack them and have a conversation about them in the movie itself, and then totally flip those things on their head.
We also got to kind of learn the lore and the rules of our movie with the characters as they figure it out. So it's not like, we really wanted to make sure we didn't have like a big rule dump.
Like an exposition.
Yeah, a big expositional scene where then you work from there. We were like, cool, they just discovered there's a vampire as we discover there's a vampire, and then now let's see how that plays out.
Yeah, and it's not like the movie takes place over a series of like weeks or months, so there's no time to learn any of that stuff other than just in the experience, in the experiencing of it with the characters. We saw a bunch of tapes, and Alisha was one of them. So when we saw her tape, I mean, it was clear that she was amazing and that she was like at the top of the list. And then our first Zoom with her, I think that what you always hope for is that you also see a real kindness and a real curiosity, and it was all there.
Yeah,
and then just very sort of coincidentally also happens to live in Dublin, which is where the movie shot.
And then in that first Zoom with her, we had her read some sides, and she did the vamp out scene, and all of us were like, oh, and we just started like texting each other like, oh, found it. She found her. She's great. This is it. We got it.
It was like there was like a fearlessness.
Yeah. She was like a monster. And then the second she was done, she was like, okay, was that nice? You know, she's just so sweet and like gentle and kind.
She could do the two things.
Yeah,
in real
instantly.
life. Yeah, it's that make that change so effortlessly.
We hadn't made a monster movie before, like a straight up monster movie.
Yeah.
So the opportunity to make a monster movie at Universal was like a no-brainer for us. We were like, oh, hey, yes, please. Absolutely. Let's do it.
I mean, I think the fun of making scary movies in general for us is just that it's make-believe on like the highest, craziest level. There's just a lot of really weird, fun, tactile stuff that you get to do when you're making a horror movie. And I think we're just obsessed with that process. Like we really love the making of that. And then I think on an emotional level, there's just so much fun in getting to explore really earnest emotional things under the veneer of this sort of heightened,
ballerina vampire,
wacky, kind of crazy world. And I think for us, you know, it's about making the hard things in our lives a little bit more palatable, right? To be able to explore all of these kind of dark corners of who we are in a way that is really fun and is cathartic. And I think that for us, the sort of balance of those things, that you're making a movie about really serious things that is not taking itself seriously at all, that is the sweet spot for us.
This band of like misfit kidnappers gets thrown together. None of them know each other, and they're just hired for one night, a 24-hour job. They're gonna kidnap this like millionaire's daughter. They don't know who though, and they're just instructed to bring her to this like abandoned house and wait. And one of them gets killed, and then another one, and they start asking like what's going on in this house, and that's when like the supernatural element comes in, and we realize that we're dealing with not a 12-year-old girl, but a 1,000-year-old vampire. I think all of the characters are monsters in that they've all done bad things and they've all hurt people. And so it's funny to see like a monster taking them all down. I've done some very bloody movies before. I've been covered in blood a lot. And this is the most that I've ever been covered in blood. I think that speaks to what kind of movie this is. I think also Matt and Tyler love blood. They're always calling for more. And which you wouldn't expect if you met them, because they're the sweetest, nicest guys on the planet. And I think we're going all out in this movie. They're two bodies and one brain. It's really amazing how in sync they are. They're best friends, and you can feel the love between them, and you can feel the excitement for what they're doing, and they divide and conquer. They're very well prepared. Things come up where you have to like kind of change plans. It's always like the smoothest that it can be. We block with both of them, but when we start shooting, it's mostly like Matt gives the actors notes and Tyler gives camera notes. And so it's very effective and very quick, and we can go right away again. And it's a very beautiful way that they work, in a very loving and fun environment that they create on set. And they're very encouraging and very collaborative, and they let us play. They always want to see what we can come up with and then go from there and guide us from there, which is, I think, an amazing way to work.
Totally everything that we love to do in the horror space, especially with Radio Silence, is that sort of tension but fun. It's not only a great release for any movie, but it gives you a great break as the tension builds and as some of the horror builds. And this movie adds something even bigger on top, which is sort of flipping a Dracula movie or a vampire movie on its head, and not having the expectation, especially when the movie opens up and there's real peril for what would be a traditional trope of a movie of a young girl, and then she becomes the powerful monster that she is. I think everybody has their sort of preconceived notion of what a vampire is. And, there's actually a great scene in the movie where they talk about that. Like, what kind of vampire are we dealing with? And they, talk about vampires not so much as historical of who they were, but in other movies and would have been, right? So you think this movie's starting in a completely different way. And it sort of very quickly evolves into the power of what that character is, and that everybody kind of knows and feels. And then we play with some of those tropes a little bit, and some of the typical things that you would think could stop them don't. And that's just a super fun twist on the vampire role.
Well, I think the take on the tone for me was, letting the backdrop of the horror stay hidden for a while. And then you get caught up in this heist film. And then it makes a left turn there somewhere. That tone was more of suspenseful. And I think that's where it would grab a hold of the audience. Rickles is a person you want on your team, very loyal, very honorable, but he's also a guy that you don't want to cross. He's the one that kind of grounds the film, and the team. You always need a shooter, right? But you also need someone to have a sense of bringing people together in a way that is organic, you know, because you got Pete, you got Dean, you got Frank, you got Joey, you know, everybody's all these different individuals, but then he comes in and kind of grounds it without saying much. And it's kind of like the glue to the crew. He's out of the military. You know, to me, it felt like this was his one last job that he was going to do. And I think Joey is what keeps him there. You know, he's attracted to Joey. He likes Joey. You know, he wants to fall in love with Joey. And that's part of it. So if I can collect some money and get a woman in there at the same time, is a win-win.
The emotional line for Alisha's character is she's been alive for a very long time. She was turned, you know, we never actually defined the exact amount of time, but it's definitely centuries. And she's missing something. And the game she's playing is a game she's played over and over again, never expecting to find somebody who cares a little more. And for the first time, she finds it. And we join her journey at that moment. Alisha's transformation into Abigail and becoming a vampire was so much fun to watch. She is one of the hardest working actresses I've had the pleasure of working with, and you mix that with the sweetest face and the ultimate personality, and then you put teeth on her and let her kill people. She just over-delivered on every level. And I also think there's a ton of fun in just the reality of a young kid, girl or boy, that you just start seeing them curse and kill and stab and maim and bite, and getting to watch all of those insane things through the lens of a little kid is just something so fun. And then you add that level of talent to it, and you put that together and your recipe just becomes something remarkable.